Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2017 coming of age drama comedy, The Edge of 17. Now, The Edge of 17 is a film that, in all honesty, was not on any of my watch lists. I really didn't know that much about it until I was requested to check it out. And I was really surprised by this film. I loved it. I thought this was a fantastic coming of age film that was on par with the kinds of films that it's very much inspired by, which is the John Hughes 80s coming of age films that really put John Hughes on the map. The writer and director is a big fan of John Hughes and his work, and that is definitely something that really comes across with this film. I know it got a lot of praise critically when it came out, and I think it did decent when it comes to the box office, but really only because of the fact that it was a low budget film. But I don't really see a lot of people talking about it though, despite the fact that it did have all these good critical accolades in its favor. And I think it is a great film. And before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on the film, though, I would like to give a special shout out to Andrew for requesting yet another review. And if there is another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal, my Patreon, or my Cash App. The links to all three are in the video description down below, and I will try to get to your requests as soon as I possibly can. Now, The Edge of 17 is directed by Kelly Freeman Craig. And prior to this film, she was a writer on the 2009 film Postgrad. And this is her directorial debut. And I think she did a really solid job as a first time director. This is a film that, in my opinion, is a good first outing for a first time director. It's more of an intimate film, it's more of a stripped down, down to earth kind of movie. It's not something that's really going to need a lot of innovative or unique camera work to make it work. You just need to find a good lane and pretty much stick with it. Because with a lot of these films, a lot of it is really about being in the moment and effectively finding a way to convey visually the emotions and the overall vibes of certain key scenes. And I really do feel that the director does that. And she also gives it a little bit of an extra spark, a little bit of some extra personality to help make the film her own with some chosen camera angles here and there or different camera work techniques. There's not a ton of pans, not a ton of zooms, not a ton of more involved camera work in this. But like I said, it's fine because this is a movie that's not really that kind of film. And I think that might be a little distracting if it did decide to go that route. But there still are some really nice looking shots in this. There's a wide shot after the lead, Nadine, has a particularly rough night with a boy. And she's leaning up against, I think it's like a dumpster or a shipping container. And there's a really great wide shot uh, of her just leaning up against this shipping container while it's dark outside, and I think it's starting to rain a little bit. And the way that the director shot that scene with the lighting from the street lights and everything, it's just a really, in my opinion, a very striking image. And I think there's a lot of I wouldn't say a lot of, to be fair, but there's a fair amount of moments like that visually that do make this look like a better than average kind of coming of age teen drama comedy in terms of its visual style and the overall direction. And the director also deserves a ton of credit for the very strong performances that are featured in this film, especially from the lead in Hailee Steinfeld, who is absolutely spectacular in this. And I think the director just found a way to really get the most out of her. And that's one of the key jobs of a director, if you ask me, is not only providing some good looking shots visually, but also providing good work and a good avenue for these actors and actresses to provide some good work. And I definitely feel that Kelly really was up to the task when it comes to her direction for her directorial debut. Now, Kelly also wrote the film, and initially it was a different movie. It was more of a straight up comedy. It was called Besties, and there were a few differences in terms of the plot, and it wasn't as dramatic until the producer, James L. Brooks, saw her script, and he essentially nudged her in the direction of having more drama in the script and retooling it and trying to get her to say something more than just creating just another generic uh run of the mill teen comedy. And I think that really is to this film's benefit because this is one of the most effective coming of age films in my opinion in terms of showing how awkward, how uncomfortable, how frustrating uh, adolescence is, especially when you're a teenager and you're on the cusp of adulthood and you're dealing with all of the feelings and emotions that come with that. And I know there are other films that have definitely dealt with that before, but the level of relatable cringe, the level of just secondhand embarrassment that this script creates is something that I haven't seen as much of even in a John Hughes classic teen drama. Uh, the opening of the script, in my opinion, is brilliant. From the beginning, it just grabs you with this moment of panic where Nadine comes into her teacher's classroom and she is just frazzled and she sits down and she tells him that she's going to kill herself. And the way that the dialogue is written, despite how screwed up this is, it's hilarious. It's some really good dark comic writing, not just from Nadine in terms of the dialogue that she's given, but also the dialogue that her teacher has in response. And I don't know if a lot of that was in the script though, because I remember reading something that Woody Harrelson actually improvised most of his dialogue. And the writer and director was happy about that because, you know, Woody is a professional, like he's a longtime pro. And uh, he definitely added a lot to the film by improvising some of this stuff and also helped out this young writer and director who prior to this, yeah, she wrote post grad and was involved with writing a short film, but she didn't have a ton of experience. So having Woody improving things definitely did help the film be all it can be. And I like how it handles flashbacks as well, because you start out with this moment where she's freaking out and she's talking about killing herself, and then it cuts to her childhood and how she was bullied, and then it shows her refusing to get out of the car when she's gonna get dropped off at school by her parents, and she winds up ultimately finding her first friend, though, in an unlikely scenario where she's frustrated after getting bullied by these girls. And then she winds up meeting this girl named Krista, who winds up letting her be a co-parent to this fuzzy caterpillar, and they wind up becoming very close friends. And then it fast forwards to what is at least the current timeline of his story, where now Nadine and Krista are in high school, and um I think they're definitely close to being done with high school. I think Nadine is a junior at this point. And so Nadine and Krista, they're still very close with one another. And Nadine's mom, she winds up traveling to the coast to meet a boyfriend. And in the process, Nadine, of course, decides to have a bit of a, I wouldn't say a house party, but it's like she has a party with her friend, and it involves drinking. And Nadine is also somebody who, a few years ago, her father died in a very tragic way. And the way that the script handles that too, it was not only unexpected, but it's another thing that really makes you sympathize with Nadine and feel for her and understand as well why she is so neurotic, to say the least. And what happens next is just more crap piled on top of this poor girl, because she's already drunk and in a vulnerable position and sleeping on the floor in her bathroom. She wakes up and she's still in a bit of a drunken stupor, and then hears some noises coming from her brother's bedroom, opens the door, and then sees her best friend sleeping with her brother. And this is a difficult scenario for, I think, anybody to honestly have to deal with. Seeing a sibling being involved with your best friend in that kind of way. But for her, she's somebody who is still struggling, even after all these years, getting over the loss of her father. And the connection between her and Krista was one of the few things that she had, because she wasn't that close with her mother. She wasn't close with her brother. They have this sibling rivalry going on. And now her best friend is hooking up with her brother. And understandably, this causes Nadine to spiral. But that's not really the moment that makes her contemplate suicide to her teacher. That happens later, when she drafts a message to this boy that she has a crush on Facebook, and she's talking about how she wants to have sex with him and she really likes him, and she accidentally presses send. So now she goes to the teacher, and then she does the whole thing where she talks about how she wants to kill herself. And of course, this is also around the time when she is uh, just in that deep spiral already because of what's going on with her friend. Because she had a falling out with her friend after her friend decided to go steady with her brother. And so that is definitely affecting a lot of things in Nadine's life, to say the least. She winds up having to go to work with her mother because she reverts back to when she was a kid and not wanting to get out of the car. So her mom just winds up driving her to her work instead of driving around the block. Uh, so Nadine, though, because she is just stuck there and she's bored and she doesn't have anything to do, and she's a teenager and she's got all these thoughts just going like crazy in her head, she decides to steal her mom's car and drive away to get away from it all. And that's when she impulsively starts writing this message to this boy that she has a crush on, and then she accidentally sends the message, and it's this message that makes her look like a slut. So understandably, she's like, "Oh my god, like holy shit, I want to die." And what happens next though is he actually responds, and she winds up going on a date with him later that night. But this boy has other ideas, and he puts the moves on her, and she's resisting because she's that's not really what she wants. But the boy is confused because he thought that she just wanted sex, and it's just awkward and it's cringe and it's uncomfortable to watch, and so real. Like that is a real thing that a lot of people deal with, especially young adults and even just adults sometimes. When it comes to just hookups just gone horribly wrong, or things are confused and you're thinking that, oh, this is going to go one way and then it goes sideways. And she winds up getting picked up by her teacher. And throughout this script, the teacher and Nadine have formed this unlikely friendship, and he's in a way kind of a mentor figure for her, and there is a romance going on despite all of this craziness as well, because Nadine starts hanging out with this admirer, this equally awkward kid named Erwin, who is this nerdy kid who goes to the same uh, classes as her, and he likes her, and he's like flirting with her, and she doesn't quite get it initially, but then she decides that to call him and really starts to put two and two together that he's into her, and they actually go on a little bit of a date at a park, and that's after she had a pretty bad experience at a party, where she went to a party with her brother and her friend, and her friend essentially just ditched her at the party to go play beer pong with other people, and make new friends. The script does a great job really making you understand why Nadine would be so frustrated in the moment, but it also makes an equally good case as to why she's going too far, why she is holding herself back because of this animosity and this angst that she's just allowing to stay inside of her, and and not willing to just let it out in a healthy way, or just honestly move forward from a lot of this. uh, I see some people's perspectives when they really side with her when it comes to what's going on with her and her friend, because I do think the way that her friend handled things was kind of shitty. But in reality, this is something that happens more than you might think when it comes to dynamics between friends. And things change. Relationships evolve, or they shift, or people grow apart, and it's just a part of life and a part of growing up. And sometimes you have to think about, okay, yeah, I don't like that my friend is with my brother, but they seem to be happy. He's my brother. Maybe it's a good thing that he's happy, and uh, you know and my friend is happy, and they like each other, and who am I to try to break that up? Here I am just tearing apart my family and my friendship with my friend because of these thoughts that I have in my head that I think are right, but maybe they're wrong, stuff like that. And I like that she starts to see some good things with Irwin, but because of the fact that he's not necessarily the type of guy that she envisioned herself to be with, which is something a lot of people deal with, both genders, in terms of like, oh, that's not the person that I'm destined to be with. I'm destined to be with this person, not that person. And because she still has those thoughts, she's not really fully committed to Irwin, but she agrees to go to see a film festival that features a film that he's doing, and a bit of a animated film that he's done. And she thinks, okay, the stuff with Erin, maybe you'll be a friend, but I got this date with this hot boy. And then, of course, it just goes to absolute shit. And now everything is going on with her mother, and her mother is just sick of Nadine's bullshit. And she has sent her brother to try to find Nadine, and of course Nadine doesn't realize that her brother, despite the fact that he's supposedly the chosen one in the family and he's the favorite, he's got his own issues too that he's working through. And he's got a lot of problems with his mother, even things that Nadine doesn't see. And you have this really nice moment where, after Nadine refuses to go home with her brother and her friend, and the teacher takes her home, she has this moment where she winds up talking to her brother and apologizing for things, because there was a moment where light bulb went off between her and her brother, because her brother, before he wound up leaving and left the teacher to take her home, he had this moment where he didn't necessarily lash out at his sister, but he called her out on her bullshit. And he was telling her the other side, and telling her that, I'm tired of having to always, be there for mom and pick up after you and do all of this other stuff. You don't really realize that, my life isn't perfect, you know? And he sarcastically is like, "Yeah, my life is perfect. It's amazing. It's so great. I always have to deal with all this shit all the time. I have to contemplate staying closer to mom so I can pick up after her, and deal with everything going on with her, and not be too far away from her." And it all culminates with this really nice, heartfelt moment between brother and sister, where they share a hug with one another. Didn't need to have that many words of dialogue. The hug between the two of them speaks volumes. And then after that, Nadine really starts to figure things out. She's willing to put a lot of things aside now. She's going to focus on other things, not everything that's going wrong. She's just going to kind of really go with the flow more. And she decides to go to the film festival and sees Irwin's short film, which is honestly a really funny short film with aliens that's really charming and witty and creative in its own way. And she gives him some flowers. They have some more awkward but cute moments with one another. She's just now gotten past all of that. She's found a way to move past this whirlwind of emotions that was going around her at all times. And she's focusing more on the positive. She's focusing more on things in her life that can lead to uh her happiness and other people's happiness around her. And that's really what growing up is in a lot of ways. It's about coming to terms with uh the fact that you're not always going to be in control. You're not always going to be able to have the desired outcome for everything. There are things that are in your way. There are obstacles. There are things that you have to overcome. And a lot of the time, some of those obstacles are really from you. Like, you're the biggest obstacle. You're the biggest thing that's holding yourself back and making your life so unbearable. There's a quote from Nadine here that I think is just so relatable and so strong and so powerful. And I think it, in a lot of ways, it really does sum up, in my opinion, the message of this script and this story. You know, ever since we were little, I would get this feeling like I'm floating outside of my body, looking down at myself, and I hate what I see. How I'm acting, the way I sound, and I don't know how to change it. And I'm so scared that that feeling is never going to go away. And this entire film was about Nadine coming to the realization that it's okay to have those feelings, that it's okay to feel that way, but don't let it dominate your life. Don't let it control your life. Don't let that be what drives you down a particular path. Yeah, I really, really liked this script. I thought the writer did a great job making this character into somebody who was relatable, kind of annoying at points, but in a good way. You know, the kind of way where you're like, okay, I see where she's coming from, and you're like, come on, get your act together. But in a way that wasn't like so obnoxious or over the top. It was measured in a way that made it all the more relatable. And then the other side characters, the way that they were handled was also great. The mom, the brother, the teacher, the best friend, and even Irwin, the new love interest for Nadine. And it's funny at times, but it's not like laugh out loud hilarious all the time. But it's funny enough where, you know, it'll have some moments of levity to break up a little bit of the drama. So so it's not too depressing. It's a good balance of heavy real emotions and uh secondhand embarrassment and cringe, but also some lighthearted fun. And I think this is a great example of a script that takes something that can be very painful, that can be very hard for a lot of people to deal with and focus on. You know, the loss of a parent, the loss of uh, the way that you've known your life to be for many, many years, and having to cope with that, and having to um, choose whether or not you're going to still be with your friend despite what's going on with her and your brother, and how much you don't like that. And you also have to make a commitment to other things, a commitment to bettering yourself, and to improving your outlook on life, and choosing not to be miserable. There are a lot of films where these characters, they're miserable, they are just upset about the world and about everything, and they feel like they can never really get what they want, and that eats away at them, and then they're dead inside by the end of the story, and nothing changes. But with a script like this, you get the opposite. And I think that's such a more compelling story. The cast is great. I mean, Hailee Steinfeld is spectacular as Nadine. She is very charming, very witty, very chock full of personality and a lot of quirks. Just a really enjoyable performance to watch, and she did a great job in terms of anchoring the entire film, and very underrated when it comes to her comic timing as well. Woody Harrelson, he's great as always for the most part. He's usually like one of the best things in anything that he's in, even if it's like a small indie film. And this is no exception. I really love the chemistry and the dynamic between him and Haley. Haley Lu Richardson as Krista. She was good too. It was a difficult role, but I think she handled it well. Blake Jenner, he did a decent job too as the brother, especially the scene when he finally blows up at his sister and he's had enough of her shit, tells her, you know, the reality of things. And then the moment when they have their embrace later. And of course, you got Kyra Sedgwick, who plays the mother. She does a great job playing this harried, just really stressed out mom who's struggling herself to try to maintain the chaos around her. And Hayden Szeto as Irwin, the Nadine's boyfriend. Like he was awkward, but in a way that was kind of charming in its own particular fashion. So yeah, really good cast. The cinematography by Doug Emmett was also well done. It was cheery and bright when it needed to be, but also cold and dark and I wouldn't say unsettling, but the cinematography definitely was willing to live in either moment, whether it was the dark moments or the bright ones. And the editing by Tracy Wadmore Smith, I thought was terrific for the most part. Really did help add a lot of extra energy and even more uh, good vibes and just a lot to the film in terms of giving it its distinctive personality. And the music by Atli Overson, not what I would call particularly great in terms of a score, but it worked for the film. I don't know if they used that much licensed music. I don't really remember a lot of it. There's like a Billy Joel song, but in terms of other music, I don't know if there's a lot. But the music still fits, still works for what the film is trying to do. But this is not a film where the music is really carrying a lot of the emotion and the feelings and the overall uh, vibe of it. It's a more of a film where the story and the characters and some points of direction, that's what really um, showcases those things. But yeah, I can't really say that much else about this except I think it's a gem and I would recommend it if you haven't seen it yet, especially if you're a fan of coming of age films. But anyway, that is my review of The Edge of 17. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. See ya.